You! Eye contact, buddy. Stop staring at my 12s. Have at it. That's right. I have in my possession 2 unreleased 12-inch Dragon subs. Got them about 6 days ago. Not long enough to give you a full review, which is incubating, but certainly long enough to lay down some juicy, narrow, mostly objective observations, which may be helpful as first-hand accounts of these male emotion atomic bombs are difficult to come by. As a reminder, I didn't paraglide into Nakamichi headquarters and steal the subs. They just sent them to me. No contract, no money. Let's dig in. The new sub has a serious build. It's dang solid. Ow. It's eye-catching without being crass and has at least a passing resemblance to, I don't know, let's randomly point this one. As mad or as happy as this will make the community, the 12-inch sub looks and feels like the proper official sub to the most audacious, over-the-top, controversial soundbar system on the globe. I'll be more detailed about setup in the full review, but in short, if you already have a Dragon system, you'll want to find the provided USB stick loaded with the firmware update that will enable you to pair your 12-inch subs. This firmware update will unpair your 8s, and you'll need to manually pair the 4 subs. It's an easy process that involves putting subs in pairing mode by holding the pairing button and then holding the input button on the main unit. The on-screen display makes it easy to confirm that subs are connected. There's also an app update that supports the 12. You'll want to download that as well. It seems to be working pretty well and makes it easy to activate and deactivate the 4 subs as desired. As I hinted at earlier, I'm not yet ready to monologue on how well the 12 meshes with the broader system and how it jives with the 8s or not the 8s and what happens when you put subs in any number of configurations. That's the next video. I'll give all that its proper due. Anyway, one of the gold claims about this 12-inch sub is it goes, quote, as low as 19 Hz. The wording here is vague and gives Nakamichi wiggle room, whatever the result may be. That's helpful for Nakamichi, but what should a customer expect if the sub was given instruction to play a 19 Hz tone? Customer A may see 19 Hz and think, at 19 Hz, the sub will still have a lampshade on its head, though below 19 Hz, the party will start to lose some of its spunk. Customer B may see 19 Hz and think, that's where the sub stops subbing. Welcome to the end of the road, Buster. Now, with higher-end subs, which I believe these count, at least one guy has a stance on what you should do with them before making observations.
You have really 2 things that are significant. You have a driver that is stiff and unformed. The suspension needs to run in mechanically. And then you have an amplifier who has a huge power supply that needs to charge up. And this can take 2 to 3 days.
As I'm sympathetic to the idea that mechanical things can change with some rapidity during initial use, I followed his advice, just to be safe. I fast-forwarded the subs. My regiment, 24 hours of rain sounds with thunder, 20 plus hours of moderately loud trap music so the woofers can 25 minutes of a 28 Hz tone, 4 full movies, and 5 hours of various other tones, music, TV shows, and content segments. So long enough for the woofers to get past the immediate unboxing, unformed state. The polymers had time to warm up, the power supply amply charged. For the unbelievers, I made no changes to the sound, no harm. For the believers, I brought the subs closer to its intended form. Anyway, when I played a 19 Hz tone, pumping up the volume and bass to generous levels because I'm just that kind of dad, well, here it comes. You can hardly hear it. That's right, I'll say it again. You can hardly hear it. It's a whisper. I, customer A, was worried that maybe I just can't hear that level tone. So I measured the decibels and saw, hardly a decibel change between my listening room with no soundbar system noise and the system playing a 20 hertz tone. At this very moment, someone is being smug and writing, "I'm some unkind word for doing the break-in thing." Peace be with you, my friend. And a smuggier person is typing that the 212s are canceling each other out. I did see you coming and made measurements with both 1 and 2 subs active. With either 1 or 212s playing, the 20 hertz tone is whisper soft. Now the most smug person who has ever smugged is typing and saying, well, the subs both can't play 20 hertz and are canceling each other out. Wrong again, I'll explain in a bit. For context, I used many different tone generators, REW, random online tools, raw wave files, YouTube, and this finding was consistent. I will say you don't get that desperate bottoming out mechanical sounds like on the 8s. It's a more dignified way of playing 20 hertz delicately. I'd say the lowest frequency where the 12-inch sub is still peacocking, flowering, and shining is around 30 hertz, maybe as low as 28. This was a very consistent finding, whether it be just listening, a frequency curve measurement, or measuring a 30 hertz static frequency. Having 2 12s play together increased the 30 hertz decibel level of any recording position, so this is additional evidence against cancellation. 30 hertz sounds great, categorically different than the 8's 30 hertz for sure. You feel the air pressure, it sounds clean and butter smooth, less polluted. I think you're gonna really dig it. I'll admit, my expectation with these subs when carrying them up and down stairs, and not even one lady clapped, by the way, was that just one of these subs might be too much. 4 would be outrageous. It would suck all the air out of my lungs, crush my insides, and leave me dead on the couch. I'm no longer overcome with that fear. You could jack up the sound to 60 and bass level to 8, 9, 10 and get a bit closer to that sensation, sure, but at legal listening volumes, it's merely and I'm going to give it its due, a remarkably high quality performer that does bass in a classy way. You feel the air pressure change, no doubt, especially at 30 hertz, but its personality is somewhat reserved. It doesn't get over its skis. It doesn't pollute the sound with mechanical noise if it can't get there naturally. For those particular people we all love very much, I will share some frequency curves. I have historically shied away from these kinds of measurements as I think it can hold far too much weight in a review before a potential customer has a chance to listen, and does not address performance factors you get from more complex audio tracks, such as responsiveness, distortion, dynamic range, room interaction, soundstage, immersion, timbre, and a personal chemistry you want to share. The analogy that comes to mind is, let's say I just ate a hamburger and I'm just sitting there pondering how yummy it was. Then some jerk comes at me with a flavor response measurement and showed me why the flavor was bad or lumpy. Should I decide to retroactively unenjoy the hamburger or vice versa? It's sterile and robotic if given too much weight. But I recognize the Dragon is a special case, and I think there are some straight, narrow facts about the 12-inch sub capabilities that I experienced that are supported by the measurements. Here is the Dragon Systems curve with 2 12s, no DSP, bass set to 5, volume to 25. It's rather flat with a slight dip in the highs. Here it is zoomed in. Yes, the dips look more dramatic now. Don't freak out, we're zoomed in. Anyway, you can see it peaks around 30 hertz, but then you get a steep drop as you descend down to 20. This 30 hertz local peak to 20 hertz dive is extremely durable. I measured this over and over again regardless of DSP, number of subs, volume, bass level, and measuring position. I know with smoothing it shows it crossing 20 hertz at something between peak and bottom, though if you just play a pure tone, it's pretty clear it's closer to the bottom. It's virtually inaudible, which is oddly impressive because the sub is really moving. You would think it would make some noise. The only reason I'm even showing you the higher frequencies is that I want to demonstrate that the sound profile above 30 Hz is very sensitive to seating and recording position. If you encounter more of these in the future, just know it's highly impacted by the reviewer's room and measuring position. Here is the original curve I showed you, and here is a different curve with the mic set back just 3 feet. This didn't shock me, as you can clearly feel air pressure changes, say playing a 30 Hz tone, as you walk around the room. And this was the case with either 1 or 2 12s active. Again, not noise cancellation. I see you, noise cancellation guy. And depending on the frequency, its peak will be different places in the room. 30 Hz peak was higher and further back. 50 Hz was lower and closer to the subs. Though I will point out, this effect became less pronounced when listening to real content like music and movies, as opposed to hyper-focused nerd content like sweeps and tones. All right, 3 big take-home messages I want to underline before galloping away. If you're expecting a significant foundation-eroding bass presence at 19 Hz with the 12s, you're not going to get that, at least with how the system is tuned at the moment. I can't say I know what the full potential of the sub is, and I care not to speculate. Unfortunately, you're not given the controls to figure that out. You got general volume, bass level, and on-off. The experience you have with the Dragon and 12s may be significantly impacted by where you choose to sit. To find your sweet spot and to make that spot extra sweet, you'll need to experiment with system positioning, your positioning, levels. You may even want to acoustically treat the room. Do the work. I understand this bit of advice is against the soundbar creed. This should be really easy. I'm just the messenger. If you're expecting a high-quality sub-build and style and a categorically improved deeper bass sound that really classes up the joint, you do get that with the 12s, no question, even if you're not getting a robust 20 Hz. If you need peak Dragon, you need to buy these things. Yes, I understand. This reality is going to make many of you lose the top of your head due to hot steam, because the Dragon has reached a form you expected it to when you first bought the system. I get it. I'm a customer too. There is another group that I fear is diving headfirst into domestic strife by purchasing these on the sly, thinking the missus somehow won't notice on the credit card, nor the living room. You got this, buddy. Okay, I hope these narrow findings were helpful. Gonna reiterate, playing single frequencies and frequency sweeps tells you something, but there is definitely a far more interesting, fully colored story to uncover after I really have time to dig in and talk about how the Dragon plays content you're supposed to be listening to. Look for the full review coming soonish. All right, gonna wrap this up. Please help me reach my 40,000 sub goal by 2025 so I can just sit back, cross my arms, and say, I did it. I really did. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.